William Lyon Mackenzie was a terrible little man. Nevertheless, he's gone down in Canadian history books as some sort of a saint. I guess that's because much good came of what he did, even if he did it unpleasantly. Mackenzie was very small, probably less than 5 feet 5 inches in height. When he became first mayor of Toronto, one of his political enemies wrote that when he sat in the mayor's chair, his feet didn't touch the floor. It's hard to tell what's true about him and what's gross exaggeration. But if Mackenzie's image suffers from the irresponsible journalism of the day, it's his own fault. No one did more to set the tone than he did. Mackenzie was a very poor Scotsman who came to Canada in 1820. He started off within a day or two of landing as a timekeeper on the Lachine Canal, which was under construction. He accused the workers of cheating the boss and the boss of being an incompetent who didn't know how to run the job. A fitting start for Mackenzie. He would sooner argue than eat. When that job ended, and it didn't last long, he went to Toronto, York as it was called back then. He went into business as a merchant and made big money. He might have become one of the millionaire merchants that era had produced, but he couldn't. He had a fixation, a double fixation really, politics and journalism. In 1824 in Queenston near Niagara Falls, he started a newspaper called the Colonial Advocate. Right from the first issue, he tore into the establishment. The establishment gave him lots to be critical about. High taxes, poor services, virtually no roads, all the good jobs going to people from England, and so on. After 4 years, he moved back to York. He was in constant hot water with the governor. He decided to not just write about politics, he wanted to play the game. So he was elected to the House of Assembly. The fact that Mackenzie was right didn't make him any more lovable. He suffered from a fever that kept him ill most of the time and short-tempered. It also made him bald. He wore a cheap red wool wig. Whenever he was angry, he would tear off the wig and throw it on the floor and jump on it. The poor wig was good for about 10 trips to the floor on a fairly calm day. Mackenzie was an even-tempered man, always furious. Mackenzie had the contract to print the debates of the House. The government just didn't pay him. He could get resolutions passed, voting him his money, but the governor and his officials ignored them. That's exactly what Mackenzie was campaigning against, democratic government that didn't follow the will of the people, government that wasn't responsible. Late in 1831, the government members in the House finally mustered up enough votes to have Mackenzie thrown out of the House and his seat declared vacant. Mackenzie ran for that vacant seat. There were no secret ballots in those days. People went to the polling place and loudly declared their vote. On the 2nd of January in 1832, Mackenzie's supporters flocked into York from as far away as 50 miles. They went to the polling place and declared for their boy. By 3 in the afternoon, the vote stood at 119 for Mackenzie, 1 for the other guy. The other guy conceded. 2 years later, Mackenzie became mayor when York became Toronto, but he still couldn't get the sort of government he wanted. 3 years later, he led a revolution. Very un-Canadian. But perfectly logical for the sort of man who gets so angry he stomps on his own wig.